Hi all, welcome to the channel. This is Eerie Knight of the Pseudo Posse, and today we are going to cover Horde mechanics in 7 Days to Die. The game is centered around hordes, but how do they actually work? How many zombies can be on screen at once? How many spawn for the entirety of the horde? How do settings in game stage affect these? In what direction do zombies spawn relative to the player? We will answer these questions and more in this video. One of the most important aspects of the Horde mechanics is game stage. You can view your game stage and that of any players on the server in this tab here. When a Blood Moon Horde occurs, the game considers nearby players as a party and calculates the total game stage value. This cumulative total is used for the entirety of the Horde, even if the players log in or log out after the Horde has started. The cumulative total remains unchanged. When using this cumulative total game stage, the game will use the highest game stage that is less than or equal to the computed total game stage when determining which waves are going to appear in the Horde. How do I know all this? Well, this is taken directly from the GameStage XML file. Here is how the game stage is calculated for a single player. It is a function of player level, days survived, and the difficulty bonus. The day survived has a max and min value. It is low capped at 0 and high capped at your current level. So, for example, a level 52 character can have a day survived value between 0 and 52. With that in mind, the formula for the game stage is equal to the player level plus day survived, and all of that times the difficulty bonus, where the game stage value rounds down to the nearest whole number. Or in other words, the decimal is truncated. The game stage of a party is ordered by game stage, with the highest game stage being calculated using a starting weight and subsequent party members' game stages calculated by diminishing returns. Here is an example calculation taken directly from the XML. The numbers on the left side here are the game stages, and the numbers on the right, after the multiplication there, are the weights. The resulting game stage for each of those calculations are on the right side of the equal sign, and the total for this example with game stages of 120, 91, 80, 60, 30, and 5 is a total party game stage of 353. If we scroll further down in the game stages XML, we can see the Blood Moon Horde groups. If we take a look at the values for stage, these correlate to the game stage and controls what spawns during the Horde for that game stage. Within the spawn element, we first have this group, Feral Horde Stage GS1. This defines the zombies that will spawn in this particular group. If we take a look at the Entity Groups XML, all we need to do is search for that group name, and we can identify which zombies will spawn for that group. If we take a look at later game stages, we can see multiple groups for that game stage. Each of these correlate to a different wave for the Horde. So for a game stage of 439, we need to look at stage 435, and under this we can see 3 groups, 417, 426, 435. These represent the different waves that are going to spawn during the Horde. Now, why is a game stage of 439 using stage 435 instead of 444? Well, that goes back to what I said previously, in that the game will use the highest game stage that is less than or equal to the computed total game stage. Now, what about the other keys and associated values in the spawn element? The num value is the size for the wave, which is the total number of zombies that can spawn during the wave. maxAlive is the per player maximum number of zombies that will spawn at once. There are restrictions to this value, which we will cover in a moment. Next we have duration, which is the maximum duration of the wave in game hours. Each wave has a duration set by the duration parameter, with the last wave having a duration of 7. Since the Horde lasts for only 6 hours, a duration of 7 just means for all remaining time till 4 AM. Looking to our game stage 439 example, here we have a duration of 2 hours. So if you kill the whole wave before 2 hours, the next wave will start after the interval. Speaking of which, the interval is the time between waves in real-world seconds. So, say we have a game stage of 69. Nice. There are 3 waves with a num of 98. Therefore, 98 times 3 waves is 294 total zombies. The actual number of zombies you fight, however, will be dependent on how fast you can kill them. Now, how many will spawn at once? So the game maximum number of spawned zombies is 64. The per player maximum number of zombies to spawn is set in the in-game settings. Then there is the maxAlive parameter, which, as I explained before, is the per player maximum number of zombies to spawn for a given horde wave, which again is dependent on the game stage. So, how do we take into account all of these numbers to determine how many will spawn? Here's scenario 1. We have a single player, max spawn zombies is 64, which is the game's default. Per player maximum is set to 8 in the advanced settings, which is the default value. maxAlive is 30, and num for a single wave is 129. The limiting factor here is the per player maximum of 8, as that value is less than the max spawn zombies and the maxAlive, so only 8 zombies will spawn. Scenario 2. Again, we have one player. Max spawn zombies is 64. The per player maximum is set to 32 in the advanced settings. maxAlive is 20, and num for a single wave is 84. Here the limiting factor is maxAlive, which is 20, as it is less than the per player maximum and the max spawned zombies. Note, as game stage increases, so too will maxAlive. So once maxAlive goes higher than the per player maximum, then the per player maximum of 32 would become the limiting factor, all these other settings equal. The absolute maximum, again, is 64 zombies. So even if there are 4 players, each with a maxAlive of 20, you won't get 80 zombies spawned at once. You'll only have 64. Last and arguably most interesting is how do zombies spawn in relation to the player. I constructed this setup here to determine where zombies spawn. The central platform acts as a compass with arrows pointing in the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, west. Each direction has a corresponding spotlight that I turn on when facing that direction. Further in the distance are the letters N, S, E, W, corresponding to the directions, and are positioned in the rough area where zombies spawn. I define the general regions as follows. Zombies grouped along this distribution would correlate to the north, south, east, and west regions. Zombies distributed closer to the corners are in the northeast, northwest, southwest, and southeast regions. The first series of tests were conducted during the Horde from start to finish with zombie AI turned off and the player character facing a single direction for the entirety of the Horde. We are also max level, day 70, and game stage 439. By examining loot bag locations after zombie deaths, I noticed that zombies tended to spawn roughly between 38 to 50 blocks from the player. This is by no means to be taken as the de facto zombie spawn range, but an estimate with some assumed amount of error. Now, let's dispel one myth right away. Zombies don't spawn directly in the direction you are facing or directly opposite the direction you are facing. They certainly can, but it isn't guaranteed. In the 5 times I faced north for the entire Horde, the zombie spawns had 3 distinct positions throughout the night, which we will get to in a moment. In the first test, the zombies spawned from the southeast at Horde start, then 2 hours later at midnight, spawned in the northwest. 2 hours after that at 2 a.m., zombies spawned in the east. In the second test, zombies spawned initially in the southeast. 2 hours later, in the southwest, and 2 hours later at 2 a.m. in the easterly direction. In the third test, we had some dramatically different results. At Horde start, zombies spawned in the east. At midnight, they spawned in the southwestern direction. And at 2 a.m., they spawned in the northeasterly region. The fourth test saw zombies spawn mostly in the northerly region, spawning in the north at 10 p.m., which is the Horde start, in the northeast at midnight, and the southwest at 2 a.m. In the last test facing north for the entire Horde, the 3 spawning positions were southwest, northeast, and then south. I did subsequent tests facing south, east, and west, and the results are all displayed here. Well, what does all this mean? Without doing thousands of tests, I can't be entirely sure, but it seems like there is no pattern in how the zombies spawn relative to the player. Initial spawn direction was not predictive, nor subsequent spawning directions. I can only conclude that zombie directions spawn in a random direction random to the player. Now remember when I said the zombies change spawn location every 2 hours? If you recall, our game stage is 439, and the gamestage XML file shows that for our game stage, we'll spawn 3 waves. Feral Horde stage GS417, GS426, and GS435. And this is exactly what we saw in the console during the Horde. The duration of the first 2 waves is 2, and recall that the duration is the maximum duration of the wave in game hours. So, it makes sense that the zombie spawn changed every 2 hours as a new wave started, and their spawn point changed. If we had killed the zombies fast enough, then the next wave would have started before the 2-hour mark after waiting the interval period from ending the previous wave. Now, is there a way to change the spawn location for a given wave before the wave ends? In our previous tests, we stayed in a single direction immobile for the entire Horde. If we move, can we influence where the Horde spawns during the wave? The answer is actually no. Sorry, not sorry, or the anticlimactic reveal. I did 2 tests, the first of which I changed directions once per hour, starting at the north, then south, and west. Then east. For the remainder of the 1.5 hours of the Horde, I ran around in random circles. Despite that, the spawn locations of southwest, northwest, and east, which correlate to the 10 p.m., midnight, and 2 a.m. wave occurrences, never changed once the wave started. For the second test, I faced north at the onset of every second hour, with spawn locations of northwest, northeast, and east. During the waves, however, I ran around my platform in random directions and killed zombies. Despite this, the spawn location never changed once a wave started. Up until now, we have stayed on our platform for the duration of the Horde. What happens if we move? For this test, we start on our platform facing north and commence the Horde. In this test, it just so happens that they spawn in the northerly direction. Now we are going to head north ourselves from our position to this other fighting platform. We can actually see zombies spawn north relative to us as we move to the new platform. If we kill all the zombies here, no more zombies are spawning in their original position, which is now south of us. Instead, they are now spawning north of us once again from our new position. Now let's move to a completely different location. The zombies still continue to spawn north of us relative to our current position. What we can conclude from these series of tests is once a new wave begins, the zombies will continue to spawn in a particular direction relative to the player, regardless of whether the player is moving in a confined space, as they would inside a Horde base, or is out roaming around. The only thing that changes the spawn location is the beginning of a new wave. I sincerely hope all the information in this video clearly explains the mechanics behind how the Horde difficulty is determined and where zombies spawn in relation to the player. Most things boil down to the game stage, which is the driving factor for the strength of a wave, the number of zombies in the wave, and the duration of the wave itself. Note that many of the parameters I discussed in this video are configurable through the XMLs, so if you want to edit those to make your waves even harder, have at it. What isn't configurable, however, is the zombie spawn locations around the player. I searched all the XMLs and could not find this information, which means it is certainly hard-coded. Nevertheless, zombies spawn in a set direction from the player and will continue to do so independent of the player movement until the onset of a new wave. That is clearly the only way the spawn location relative to the zombies ever changes. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please smash that like button and subscribe to this channel for future content, including videos on other game mechanics, tips and tricks, fun base builds, and playthroughs. Your continued support helps this channel grow, and Taco Bear and I are most appreciative. This is Eerie Knight signing off. See you next time.